So there has been a lot of conversation on social media about AEW and whether or not surprises are hurting the product. And especially, when fans talk about this, they're talking specifically about the ratings because the ratings go up and down all the time. Now, if you're an avid viewer of this channel or maybe my live streams on Twitch, you would know that I've been a very, very big proponent of saying don't look at the ratings, don't talk about ratings because of the way that they're calculated. And no matter how many times somebody's going to tell you this, the ratings always get brought up. But that gets me thinking about surprises, and more specifically, Tony Khan has been tweeting about some stuff on Twitter, and one thing that was really interesting was one of the tweets that he put out just a couple days ago. He said, "Thank you to everyone, fans at home, Kansas City fans, staff, wrestlers who made AEW Dynamite Wednesday's #1 show on cable and satellite. I'm excited that many stars will return to AEW in the weeks ahead. Glad to be back in our classic time slot for Rampage." Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because if you guys saw Dynamite and Rampage, we saw the debut of Will Ospreay, Aussie Open. Obviously, United Empire kind of has something going with FTR, and that was an element of a surprise. And when you look at the crowd reaction, the crowd wasn't too big on Will Ospreay. I think a lot of people didn't actually know who Will Ospreay was. I think some people knew and a lot of people didn't, right? And I think the surprise element for AEW is actually kind of an issue for AEW, and it's not, I think wrestling is great with surprises, first and foremost. I think that is one thing that does make AEW an exciting wrestling show in terms of television is the fact that they have the element of surprises. But I'm also one of the people that have said for so many times that sometimes predictability isn't a bad thing, and sometimes predictability is actually a good thing in pro wrestling. It just depends how you do it. Now, the thing is, and I think some people don't really understand my issue with AEW lately. Obviously, my opinions change throughout time, but I think right now we are seeing that AEW has been very heavy into dream matches and big matchups, that those elements of surprises have become so much that it's gotten to a point where they're no longer special. Whereas, when Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, while it was pretty predictable that they were going to be there, it still added that fun atmosphere, that genuine surprise for a lot of people who don't pay attention to dirt sheets and stuff. That was an element of surprise people were with. But obviously, AEW fans knew CM Punk. AEW fans knew Bryan Danielson or Adam Cole. Not all of those fans know who Will Ospreay is. So when Tony Khan says, hey, we have so many stars returning, obviously in the coming weeks, where's Orange Cassidy? He's probably going to be returning soon, right? But when we look at some of these returns and some of these people who have been missing from TV, plus we're looking at the build up to Forbidden Door, I'm wondering, and this is a question I wonder to you guys, does Tony Khan and AEW need to start kind of putting the information out there before the show goes live, right? I've always been a big person on vignettes and video packages. I love them. When AEW did them with Marina Shafir, I loved it. When AEW did it with Darby Allin, I loved it. I think vignettes and video packages are fantastic, especially when we saw the ones with House of Black. And I think they do a great job. Sometimes it kind of takes away from the surprise element because you know that they're involved somehow on the product. But I feel like they tell a better story and get people more in tune and actually get people more excited versus the surprise itself. So we know that more wrestlers are going to be returning to AEW. We know that New Japan and AEW have stuff going on for Forbidden Door, which also means we'll see AEW talent more than likely at Dominion. But at the same time, too, when you look at the overall product of AEW, a company that truly knows how to tell stories and be logical in wrestling, it makes you wonder if the surprises have been overdone. And that is something that's been really, really, really intriguing to me because I'm starting to get the impression that it is. Now, the cool thing is this is not something that's permanent. AEW, especially more so recently, I think between Forbidden Door, Owen Hart Cup tournament, just the last few months in general with wrestling and the way it's been, WrestleMania season, I feel like AEW has tried to keep a lot of the surprise elements, which to a certain extent they've been pretty good with it. But I think it's become so redundant. And when something like that becomes so redundant, they no longer feel important. It's like massive announcement after massive announcement after massive announcement, yet we're still waiting to hear about the ROH TV deal. So that's why I'm really making this video, because I see so many people are split on this idea. Hey, is AEW in a situation where they're maybe they're not as confident with their roster or their storytelling? I don't think that's the case. I've read comments on YouTube where people are like, oh, Tony Khan, he's not confident with his storytelling ability. I don't believe that. I think Tony Khan has had some pretty great stories being told in the last 3 years, but the problem is he kind of shifted away from the traditional storytelling to more of the, hey, let's have a big tag team match, or let's have the storyline, extend for a period of time. They were teasing Jamie Hayter splitting up from Britt Baker. They kind of went away from that. Okay, plans change, and I get that, but like no explanation, no talk about it. It's kind of odd that they kind of go through this cycle. And, I think everybody as a fan of AEW realizes like AEW is not perfect. That's okay. WWE is obviously not perfect. It's okay. They can get better. But what is going to make AEW better? WWE needs a lot of things to get better. But what does AEW really need to do? Because we know that they respect wrestling enough to not do DQ finishes all the time. They respect wrestling enough to allow these guys and girls to actually have 10, 15-minute matches, not 2 matches. WWE had a women's tournament, Queen of the Ring thing, and it was like total combined minutes was like less than 5 minutes, So AEW respects wrestling and so much of the traditions of pro wrestling, but what will make AEW better? And the one thing that they're really good at doing is telling stories, but for some reason they kind of shifted away from it in order to have big matchups, big dream matches, things like that. And I think based on seeing Will Ospreay's reaction in Aussie Open, not everybody knows who New Japan is. And if you watch New Japan and if you watch AEW, good for you, but most people don't watch it. And those big pops, those big moments, they're not going to last forever. So what is going to be the big change for AEW? I think it has to go back to what they know, and that is actually telling stories. It's a very, very big thing. So obviously with AEW wrestlers returning, that's going to be great. But I hope that AEW is going to make them feel important by creating video packages and vignettes for them, hyping up their returns. I wish they would have done that with Miro. It's always cool to have that little surprise factor, but I think right now it's just time to get people hyped up about AEW talent and the AEW product and the AEW stories. Those vignettes, those video packages, man, AEW does so good with them, but we don't see them often, and that is something that kind of bothers me. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I love hearing your guys' opinions on this. Again, AEW does not have that much that they need to fix, but with people returning specifically, I feel like a lot of people have kind of, there's a new debut. The person who debuted before kind of gets pushed to the side, right? So I'm hoping that AEW uses this as a good opportunity for when people do return to TV, whether it's a New Japan talent or whether it's an AEW talent like Orange Cassidy. We all like Orange Cassidy, but everybody else takes priority over Orange Cassidy. When he comes back, how can we make Orange Cassidy a big deal, right? Well, I think a video package and a vignette will be able to do that. I think putting them in a storyline right away will make it a big deal. AEW can do this if they want to. Will they? I don't know. AEW has one issue. They don't have a lot of TV time. They have a big roster. That's why there's all these multi-man matches. That's why they're eliminating entrances from AEW Rampage and stuff like that. I want to know what you guys think. Is this a big deal? Not a big deal? Let me know. Can't wait to hear your opinion.